it's all Greek to me. But hopefully we have a little something that'll make it a little easier.
Wasn't Julius Caesar Roman?
Yes. But the line, it's all Greek to me, comes from Julius Caesar.
Oh, interesting.
More you know. All right, so our story begins in the streets of Rome, and there's a big party going on because everyone's super pumped that Caesar has defeated Pompey and his sons. Problem is, not everyone is excited because some people realize that the people of Rome are brainless sheep who also worshipped Pompey when he was in power. So at Caesar's return, some lunatic comes up to him and says, "Beware the Ides of March."
But, he doesn't actually pay attention because, how lunatics are.
So Caesar is offered the crown 3 times on his return, and he declines it each time, to which the people cheer, which isn't something you want to hear when you secretly want to be king of Rome. So, meanwhile, Cassius tries to get Brutus, Caesar's good old pal, to join the murder conspiracy against Caesar in fear of losing Rome's republic and falling into tyranny.
That escalated quickly.
It does. It's an escalating play. But Brutus says, well, think about it. Which is what I would also say if someone asked me to murder my best friend. I'll think about it.
Wow, thanks.
So that night, Rome freaking explodes with a whole bunch of crazy crap. It's storming like crazy. There's fire falling from the sky. Lions are wandering the streets but not attacking people. People be rising from the dead. It's nuts.
What?
It's nuts. Lots of bad omens. Dark stuff. I don't mess with it. So
You don't mess with the dead people rising?
I don't mess with the dead people rising. I don't do it. No, I stay inside, man. Fire falling from the sky, I'm out.
I thought you were inside.
Cicero and Casca are outside, and they're talking about it, and they think that these are probably bad signs of something. But while all this craziness is going on, Cassius tries to convince Casca to join the conspiracy against Caesar and asks Cinna, the other dude, to leave fake letters to Brutus asking him to protect Rome from the tyranny of Caesar and manipulating him to join the conspiracy. So Brutus is torn up inside with the internal conflict of, do I kill my best friend to potentially save Rome? And I don't know, man, he's your best friend. You probably shouldn't do that. But when he gets the letter, he knows that his duty is to Rome and not to Caesar. So the conspirators come to his house, and he joins them. But he does persuade them not to kill Mark Antony and just to kill Caesar.
Nice guy.
Nice guy, yeah. Brutus is my favorite.
Oh, okay.
I like Brutus. Anyway, he's just bad situation, man. Good guy. Bad situation. Wrong place, wrong time. Anyway, his wife, Portia, also wrong place, wrong time, sees that he is just torn up and super stressed because, plotting the murder of your best friend would stress you out a little bit, I would say. I tend to be stressed.
Me too.
So she begs him to tell her what's up, and eventually she finally persuades him because Brutus loves and respects his wife. Caesar's wife, Capernia, tries to convince Caesar to stay in on the Ides of March because of the loony old man that we talked about earlier and her horrible nightmares that she had about Caesar dying. But Caesar doesn't listen to her because he doesn't love and respect his wife.
Oof.
And someone stroked his ego into going to the Senate that day.
So, at the Senate meeting, they kill Caesar, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So...
They literally stab him in the back.
Wow. How fitting.
Yeah. I think that's where we get that phrase from.
I mean, makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, even Brutus gets in on that whole
Et tu,
action.
Brute.
Indeed.
Et tu, Brute. So Brutus, beloved by the Roman sheep, explains that the Caesar assassination was in order to protect Rome's republic and liberty from the threat of Caesar's kingship and eventual tyranny. So even though Cassius tells Brutus not to, Brutus lets Mark Antony speak at Caesar's funeral, and Antony manages to turn all of the brainless sheep of Rome against the conspirators, and they try to attack them pretty much on the spot. So the conspirators have to flee.
Wow, he turned that around real quick.
Yeah, it's power of words.
Amen. So, Antony isn't ready to let them get away with that, so he basically puts together this giant army to go dispose of the traitors.
Indeed. And Brutus and Cassius are not looking good in their odds, because they're bickering like an old married couple, which they could potentially be pretty soon in this case, because Brutus's wife has killed herself by swallowing fire.
I think there are easier ways to...
There are easier ways, less symbolic ways, but there are easier
fair.
ways.
Shakespeare loves that symbolism.
He does. That imagery, artistry.
Mm.
Bard. Okay. So after making their bitter battle plans, Brutus is visited by Caesar's creepy ghost, who promises to appear once more once they're closer to the battle. The two sides are ready to fight, but Cassius isn't feeling good about it because he saw another bad omen, like the ones we talked about before, like the ghost of Caesar, maybe noticing a trend. But he saw another bad omen, more than the raining fire or the ghost. So him and Brutus say their goodbyes in case they don't make it out of the battle. Which seems likely. But Cassius wrongly assumes later in the battle that he had lost his battle. So he kills himself, even though he had actually won his side of the battle. Rip. And Brutus, however, is unsuccessful in the second battle. So rather than be captured, he does the honorable thing and asks one of his men to hold his sword while he runs himself into it, killing himself the honorable way as a Roman. Mark Antony notes that Brutus is the only honorable conspirator. Amen. And grants him full funeral rights.
That was a big thing back then.
That was a huge thing. Remember Antigone? I'm just saying. A lot of things go down over funeral rites.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So in this play, you need to pay special attention to the theme of choice versus fate. There are a lot of omens and prophecies, things of that nature, which begs the question, what choice do mere mortal men have?
Yeah, and actually, the famous line, the fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, comes from this play.
Yeah. You remember that book, that John Green novel?
Never read it.
Don't waste your time. This is better.
Wow, all right. Continue.
All right, so as a matter of fact, this play is filled with eloquent one-liners, so pay close attention to the language.
And also, pay attention to Caesar's use of third person when speaking. I don't know about you, I find that annoying when people do that. But
I mean, if you're king of Rome, do as the Romans do.
Yeah,
right?
and now he's not, because he's dead.
He spoke in the third person.
Yeah. But is this whole speaking in third person thing from him, is that something about his pride? And does that pride actually lead to his downfall? I mean, we're just joking about that whole idea that, oh, well, how'd it work out for him? He spoke in the third person, now he's dead. Well, like, it could have legitimately been a sign that his pride was his downfall.
Also, we have to question, did the conspirators do the right thing for Rome? Was what they did good for Rome?
Yeah, and did it work out for them? No.
Seemingly, no.
It didn't.
But
they're all dead, so...
Did it work out for Rome? No, they got it.
Didn't work out for anyone.
So whether it was the right thing or not, didn't work out for them. But what is needed to make a kingdom thrive? Because in their eyes, it was a republic.
Right. But then they kind of go off and do their own thing. and kind of go against that idea of the republic because they think they know what's best, which flies in the face of the very idea of a republic.
Also, you have to look at the time that Shakespeare was writing in. He didn't really live under a republic. He lived under a monarchy. I don't really know if you can campaign for a republic with a monarchy censoring your place. I don't know.
I feel like Shakespeare could do what he wanted.
Maybe now.
That's true. Back then, though, maybe not. Another thing is speaking of, how can authority be approached?
How should it be approached?
Right. Because we see a lot of different methods of approaching authority, from Caesar, from Brutus, from Mark Antony. So there's a lot of different ways that it works out in the play. I mean, per Shakespeare tragedies, most people end up dead, but some do
and the
not.
title character, especially.
Yes.
Always.
Yes. So there's this idea that this play is really all about how do we approach authority, and what's a successful way to approach authority for yourself, for society, for, in this case, the leaders. There's a lot to think about there.
And I think it also brings up a question that we see in a lot of Shakespeare plays, which is, how does it differ from power? How does authority differ from power? Just because you have power doesn't mean you have authority. Just because you have authority doesn't necessarily mean you have power.
Right.
And how can you have both?
Right. And honestly, that's still a question that a lot of people grapple with in real life, too. It's something that we see every day, from the most minor things with professors all the way up to world leaders. There's always this question of what is this person's authority, what is this person's power, how does that balance? So, and Shakespeare really tackles that issue.